Hey all, Blake here with another video, and it's been 6 whole months since I did my last full fish room tour. So I thought, what time is better than the present to bring to you all the new stuff I've got happening in here, new fish, breeding projects, fry, grow out, heaps of different stuff, so there'll be something for everyone. And since it has been so long, whether you're a regular to the channel or you are new here, I hope that this will be an enjoyable video for you. I can't guarantee that your favorite fish is going to be in this room, but what I can guarantee is there's plenty of variety, and you might even stumble across something that you've never heard of before. So let's jump straight into the fish room tour, and I'll start right behind me here with my first of the 6-foot racks. So as you might have saw with that little intro piece here, the entrance to my fish room through my backyard is that door right there. And immediately you're greeted with 2 6-foot racks right next to each other. These racks are 2 foot deep. So what I've got here are 2-foot tanks lengthwise, and I just have them lengthwise so that I can get maximum amount of water volume in those rows right there. If we start from the bottom and work our way up, the first aquarium we have is 60 centimeters by 45 centimeters by 45 centimeters, or 2 foot by 18 inch by 18 inch. And this aquarium houses my Tropheops Chilumba. Tropheops Chilumba are pretty cool in that the females are going to be a different color to the males. You will notice here that we don't have that much difference happening here because they're still juveniles, but what we will find eventually is the dominant male is going to be a nice deep blue color, the females are going to be more yellow. So we can just start to see some darkening on the fins of what I suspect will turn out to be the dominant male, but I got them very small, so I'm just growing them up. I feed these guys mostly a veggie-based diet because they are prone to a bit of bloating and stuff like that. And in terms of decoration, we just have some pieces of Texas Holy Rock. It's basically limestone to raise up that pH to around about the 8.0 mark. Next door to that, we have a divided aquarium. This one is also 60 centimeters by 45 centimeters by 45 centimeters, or 2 foot by 18 inch by 18 inch. However, it's divided in half. So on one side, we have my paradise fish, which are in the gourami family. I liken them to a sort of a cold water tolerant betta, though they are a little bit more aggressive. They do still have some really nice trailing fins, and as I said, they don't require a heater. So they're pretty cool fish, and I definitely would recommend checking them out. They're going to hang around more at the top of the aquarium, and they are jumpers, so be sure to keep a lid on these guys. Next door to them I have my purple spot gudgeons, which are a fish that were actually thought to be extinct not too long ago. They're more of a bottom dwelling fish, and they can get quite large. They have a pretty big mouth too, so I wouldn't necessarily say they're community friendly. They do get a little bit aggressive as well, so I've just housed them in by themselves where they can just live out a happy life down there. I have got a few fry that have grown up in there, so we started off with a pair. I think there's half a dozen in there at the moment, so I'm pretty happy with how that's going. Next to that aquarium we have a 60 centimeter by 45 centimeter by 35 centimeter, so 2 foot by 18 inch by 16 inch, and that houses my blue Acara. So there's one neon blue Acara, and there's 2 standard blue Acaras. They're all siblings though, so they carry a very similar genetic makeup, so I do house them together. There is a pair that has formed from the blue Acaras, the 2 non-neons, and I have pulled some fry from them, which we'll see in just a moment. But fantastic fish. They are pretty good in a community so long as you keep them as a sole fish. I wouldn't recommend pairing them up because they do have a bit of size to them, and in breeding mode they can get pretty aggressive, so keep that in mind. But beautiful fish. Yeah, another thing to keep in mind is that they're quote-unquote plant safe until they decide that it's fun to just dig them up for the sake of it. So I wouldn't necessarily keep them in a planted tank with lots of fine-leaved plants and things like that. For stuff like Java Fern and Anubias, they'll be perfectly fine. Next to that, I have another one of these 2 foot by 18 inch by 18 inch, or 60 by 45 by 45 aquariums. And in there we house my Kribensis. There's a mixture of Kribensis here, so they're not your standard Kribensis. There are some wild caughts in there, and some cribs that were sold as Nigerian red Kribensis, but you know, I don't intend on selling them as anything other than normal Kribensis, and really I probably won't sell much of them at all. So I just keep them for the enjoyment of it. They keep them as a community, so they're not going to be prolific in their breeding anyway, and I just enjoy the different colours and looks that they give. So yeah, once again, pretty good in communities unless they're in breeding mode, and they kind of plant safe, but they do occasionally dig as well. So most of these dwarf cichlids are going to do that, but nevertheless, great beginner cichlid, pretty easy to find, pretty cheap, and yeah, great foot in the door to dwarf cichlids as well, I would say. Moving up, if we start from the left again, these are generally speaking 60 by 30 by 35 aquariums, or 2 foot by 16 inch by 15 inch. And the first fish that we have here are Bolivian rams. I have a pair of Bolivian rams. They have bred in the past, but I didn't have any successful fry. I didn't take them out, basically. I was trying to see how they would go raising them up themselves. Bolivian rams are really cool. They're a bit bigger and more boisterous than German blue rams, which you've probably heard of before. They don't show as much color in the aquarium store, so you will have to take the risk on them, bring them home and feed them and house them appropriately to see some good coloration. But when you do, they're definitely worth it, and I think they can also make a fantastic addition to your community aquarium. They're a lot more hardy than German blue rams. You don't need to keep them as hot. I think I keep them at about 26 degrees or the high 70s, but yeah, you definitely don't need to keep them up in the 80s like German blue rams. Bolivian rams are in the Microgeophagus family as well, so don't give them any sharp substrate because they will enjoy sifting through it. Next door to those, I have some koi tuxedo guppies and some Julidichromis transcriptus gombi. So these Julidichromis are really cool. They're a rock-dwelling Tanganyikan cichlid. They have some fantastic dark stripes and masking across their face, and they get a really nice sort of cyan blue sheen around the edges of their fins. So really cool fish, really great behavior. The females are going to be the more chunky, larger sort of fish, and the males are going to be more slender, but they'll find a little crack within the rocks and breed in there. And then in terms of the guppies, well, guppies like a bit of hardness in the water anyway. They're going to hang out more at the top of the aquarium, where the Julies are going to hang around the mid to lower portion of the aquarium. So I put them in here to trial them, see how they will go, and it seems to have gone gangbusters, to be honest. The guppies have brought the Julidichromis out more, so I get to see them, and they don't show signs of any sort of aggression, or there's even really small fry from the guppies in there which don't seem to be bothered as well, so pretty happy with how that tank's going. Next door to that, I have one of my absolute favourite fish here in the fish room. They're a newer fish that I've brought in, but just can't go past the coloration on these guys. These guys are Neolamprologus Caudopunctatus. There's some debate around whether they are shell dwellers or rock dwellers, and I kind of think that they're a bit on the larger size, so I'm going to lean more towards rock dwelling. But I have heard that they've bred in caves similar to the 3D printed cave that you might see in there at the moment. Just sort of 2 terracotta plates squished together with a hole cut in the middle. That is what I've been told these guys were bred from, so we're going to go with that. Once again, they're from Tanganyika, so they're going to enjoy that higher pH. And look at this coloration. They've got a striking canary yellow finnage and bright white body. Blue eyes, fantastic little fish. I haven't found them to be too aggressive either. They generally leave each other alone, and early days they were very, very skittish and they hid a lot, but these days they're starting to recognize that my hand is the one that drops the food in every day. So really enjoy these guys, and really hoping to be able to breed these guys in the future. Next to them is a bit of a fry growout I have here. Within this aquarium we have 2 types of angelfish. We'll see the parents shortly. We have some killifish, some gardener eye killifish, I believe. We have potentially some golden wonder killifish. Maybe there's some Bozeman eye rainbow fish in there. There's Bristlenose plecos in there. There's all sorts of stuff because I just had all of these spawns at once and I just kind of raised them all up together. So I'm not really sure exactly what survived and what hasn't, but there's definitely angelfish because you can see they're starting to take shape, and I believe that some of the ones swimming at the top with more of a slender body are killifish. So time will tell what they are, but the good news is nothing's really similar in looks there that won't be able to be identified down the track. So yeah, enjoying watching this tank, and it's really good to centralize the fry like that so that I'm not having to put baby brine shrimp and the like in all of the aquariums at once, because it gets to be a bit of a hassle when you have 46 aquariums. Moving along, another really enjoyable tank, we have some Apistogramma Bitaenita, really fantastic fish here, some nice kind of steel blues and long slender finnage that I really enjoy looking at. Naturally, we have some golden pencilfish at the top of the aquarium. Fantastic pairing for Apistogrammas, because the pencilfish, their Latin name is the Nanostomus, which literally means small mouth. Most pencilfish, their mouths are actually too small to eat Apistogramma fry if you are lucky enough to have them. So they make a fantastic pairing and a great dither fish for Apistogrammas, especially shy ones. On the hang-on breeder box at the front, I have some Betta spawns. It's from a Rosetail Betta and a Nemo Betta, so we'll have some nice sort of koi coloration, long finnage hopefully, and I'm looking forward to seeing these guys grow out. So they're just in a hang-on breeder box for now, until they're big enough that I can maybe put them in the fry grow out or put them in with another set of fry that I'm growing out. Now heading up to the top tier of this aquarium rack here, we have that Rosetail Betta that I spoke of earlier. So as you can see, a really nice stunning specimen. I think there's also a licorice gourami in there somewhere as well, so I don't know exactly how that got in there, but we've got a licorice gourami in there as well. Moving along here, we have another shell dweller. We have some Lamprologus Ocellatus Gold. These guys are a bit more of a feisty shell dweller, but they have some really nice coloration with some blue sheens as well. As being a shell dweller, they're going to breed within the shells, and I have got a few spawns out of these guys. So interestingly enough, the spawns kind of lasted 2 months until I guess the pair were ready to spawn again, and then the male's just gone and made short work of them and gobbled them all up, unfortunately. I wish he let me know so I could catch them out and raise them up elsewhere, but they are kind of renowned for doing that, so it shouldn't really come as a huge surprise. But you know, you always think that you've got the goose that's going to lay the golden egg. So next tank over, we have some Apistogramma Borellii. You might also know them as the Borellii opal or the umbrella cichlid. They have some really nice long rounded finnage. Unfortunately though, I think we have 2 boys in this aquarium, so there's not likely to be any breeding action, unfortunately, but you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes with Apistogrammas. Borellii are a cool Apistogramma as well, because they're a little bit more cold tolerant as well, so depending on where you live, you might even be able to get away with having a no heater setup for these Apistogrammas. Next tank over has the fry that we mentioned earlier from the blue Acaras. So just a fry grow out for these guys, but I think these little 20 litre aquariums from Kmart do the job perfectly. Okay, now behind me is my other 6-foot rack. Once again, it's 6 foot by 2 foot deep, 3 layers high. So we do have a bit of a different layout going on with this rack though. So there's a couple of aquariums that we'll talk about the dimensions of first. The 2 largest ones on this rack are 3-foot aquariums, 3 by 18 by 16, I think. So they're 90 centimeters by 40 centimeters by 45 centimeters tall. The one down the bottom has some sunset platyers and peppermint bristlenose. There's a huge colony of shrimp as well, but they've reverted mostly to wild type colors because I just can't get in there to you know, manage the line or do anything like that. So I just let them live out their days in there. But I really like the combination of live bearers, bristlenose and shrimp together, because they can all breed within the same aquarium and not give each other many dramas. The aquarium above that with the same respective dimensions has my Neolamprologus Tretocephalus. Once again, a bit of a brutish Tanganyika and cichlid. They certainly bash each other up. Very, very aggressive, and a lot of people have difficulty keeping these guys, especially trying to breed them. With that said, I really find them quite beautiful and quite striking, and they are one of my favorites again. I liken them to a bit of frontosa without the sort of headwear, and yeah, I really like the blue and white contrast, contrasting stripes. So I'm really stoked that I got these guys. I just wish that they'll play a bit nicer, and they're going to be more of a rock dweller than a shell dweller. So just keep that in mind, and then give them a nice Tanganyikan pH high up in the 8s and whatnot, and you'll set yourself up for the best chance at keeping these guys. The other 2 aquariums next to those 3-foot aquariums are 70 litre aquariums, so they're 2.5 foot long. The one down the bottom here houses my Neolamprologus Multifaciatus. Fantastic, fantastic introduction into Lake Tanganyikans. Great colony breeding fish, and they'll do all the work for you. I really love these guys. They might not have the brightest colors, but they do have a really nice blue sheen of the eye. They've got some nice stripes to them, and they've got some cool behavior, especially fantastic parenting behavior. So really love the multis, and I don't see myself moving away from multis anytime soon. And then moving up, we have a beautiful half moon giant betta. So it's going to get a lot larger than your normal bettas. We also have some emerald rasboras in there, which are related to the CPDs, but they're called emerald rasboras even though they're not really a rasbora. But some fantastic red fins. They've got the blue and white sort of tiger stripe, or blue and yellow tiger stripes, and the main thing with those guys is that you want to keep them in massive groups, otherwise you'll most likely never see them, so that's one thing to keep in mind. I've also found that they're not quite as prolific in the breeding side of things as CPDs are. 3D printed up this DIY breeder box. Basically, it works just the same as the mesh breeder boxes that you might have seen, except there's a drawer at the bottom that will catch all the eggs. So every couple of days, I'll just slide the drawer out of the bottom, and hopefully there'll be some eggs in there to harvest and hatch out artificially and grow up. Moving up, we've got 6 Nano Aquariums at the top. Mainly those Kmart 20-litre tanks, although there are some larger ones up there as well. First of all, we have my Bloody Mary cherry shrimp tank. This is a super easy, no filter, no CO2, no anything tank. It's just water, plants and shrimp, and it's been going really well. It's been established for quite a while now, upwards of a year I think. So I do pull out of this colony regularly, and I've sort of migrated them into other tanks as well. But fantastic little low maintenance setup here. Moving along, I've got a Betta Growout. I've got some Betta Embellis fry in there. We'll take a look at the parents later as well. And I've got some fry from some koi bettas as well. Actually fry that I raised up, which have now had fry. So it's pretty cool to see multiple generations coming out of my fish room. Probably struggled to catch them on camera, but fantastic to see them grow up. And they are very slow growers as well, so you really need to have a dedicated aquarium to grow them up within. Next over, we have a bit of a mutt guppy sort of tank. They started off as koi tuxedos, but the koi tuxedos threw a lot of blonder type guppies, so they ended up there, and I just haven't really decided what to do with them. I feel like they're too nice to move on, and yeah, they just go up there and I just keep them. But it is fun to watch the different colors develop over time, so I do enjoy that aquarium as well. Similarly, the tank next door is very much the same, just some smaller fry. I thought there was just too many guppies for one tank in that size, so I did split them out, and I've moved some to the tank next door as well. This next aquarium has my Colombian zebra plecos. I think about 5 of them or 6. It's always hard to count them up because they're never grouped together. And then we also have a pair of Betta chinoides in here, which is a fantastic wild type Betta that I was really stoked to pick up a while ago from 7 Fishes. So really enjoyed this aquarium as well, although the fish all within here are a bit more shy, and it takes a little while to actually see them all and do a bit of a check on them. Even when I drop food in, nothing really races to the front, so it's one of those aquariums that you have to sort of sit with for a period of time. Regardless of that, I think there's some really striking colorations from the white trim of the chinoides fins versus the contrast between the yellow and brown stripes of the Colombian zebra plecos as well. And then at the end we have about a 50-litre aquarium, or what I believe is about a 12-gallon, with a pair of Apistogramma Agassizii Fire Golds that I'm hoping to breed out. They're probably still pretty young, although Apistogrammas do breed pretty young, so I am hopeful. But yeah, we're not sort of gambling on anything too much up there. I'm happy to grow them out. The next racking system here that I'm going to run through is a DIY system. Once again, we have 3 layers high, and we've got about 8 aquariums running in here at the moment. The first one down the bottom is a bit of a DIY paludarium that I made, where I cut the side off a 2-foot aquarium, glued it to the front, cut on a diagonal the 2 side pieces, and glued a bit of a false back to it so we could have some immersed grown plants. And in this aquarium I just have some white clouds, a bit of a breeding colony, so yeah, nice, easy, low maintenance aquarium. In this aquarium there's just some red cherry shrimp at the moment. It's got a bit of algae happening, so wanting to clear that up. Next to that aquarium we just have a bit of Cichlids tank, and this houses some clown killifish. also known as the rocket killifish because they look like mini rockets. Keep tight lids because they will fly straight out the top of the aquarium if they are allowed to. And being a nano fish, they will find nano gaps that they will be able to do that with. I have heard that clown killies are able to be colony bred and they won't attack the fry, or at least the first batch of fry, but the second batch might get attacked by the first batch of fry. However, I'm keenly watching and observing, hoping to witness some of that behavior and see what I can do about that in the long term. So, moving up onto the second level, this first cube aquarium here has some honey blue eyes or Pseudomogil mellus, really fantastic fish. I've got about a dozen pygmy cories and 5 honey blue eyes in this heavily planted little cube aquarium. Next door to that, we have this tall cloud terrarium aquarium here. Obviously, I'm using it as an aquarium. And in this aquarium, we have my adult pea puffer, as well as my 2 brand new baby pea puffers from the Australian pea puffer farm. Super stoked to have picked those up, and yeah, I can't wait to grow them up to the size that I can put them all together. So I really enjoy this aquarium, even though we are having a bit of algae issues at the moment. It's a fairly new setup, and we've got a pretty strong light on here, so it's not really unusual. Next to that, we have a bit more of a shallow aquarium that I'm just doing a bit of a dry start method on at the moment, waiting for that Monte Carlo carpet to sort of grow out. And then at some point, I'll probably put some shrimp in there or something like that, and just be a fun little desktop nano aquarium. At the back there, we have a bit of a terrarium as well, just sort of similar to the dry start method, just growing out some of this Pogostem and Helphori, and it's just sort of a fun little scape to set up, and no real intentions of filling this one up with water. Up to the top, we have a very shallow aquarium where I have my blue cherry shrimp in there. Just use it as a bit of a plant grow out as well, because being so shallow, it's super easy to grow plants in because the light doesn't have to penetrate through much water. So yeah, I really enjoy this aquarium as well. And even though it's very shallow and it's way up the top, having the shrimp that are a bottom dweller, it's pretty close to eye level as well, so you get a nice up close look at some of the blue shrimp. No filter on this one at the moment, just the light, and no heater as well. So being high up in the fish room, it stays pretty warm anyway. Don't worry about the water getting too cold for these shrimp. The aquarium next to that is actually my live blackworm culture. So I just have some gravel and a bunch of live blackworms within the substrate. Occasionally I mix it through to sort of break up the worms, and that's how they multiply and duplicate. And then I just get a turkey baster and suck them out and feed them to my fish, especially fish like the pea puffer, like the wild bettas, that will sort of more appreciate a live meal rather than pre-prepared foods that they might not go for. So that's it for this next rack. Let's move on now and talk about some of the freestanding aquariums that I have in here. The first freestanding aquarium that I want to talk about is this one here. We have here a 20 gallon or 80 litre aquarium. It's a bit more shallow and a bit more wide than most of the 20 gallons you're probably familiar with. This aquarium here houses a whole bunch of celestial pearl danios. I'd estimate around 60, although I've had multiple spawns, so it's hard to know exactly. We also have one whiptail catfish in here and a bunch of mystery snails as well. I only just got the mystery snails recently, and I'm really enjoying watching them, and yeah, I'm really taking quite a liking to them, even though for most people that come in here, the mystery snails are the last thing they probably look at. I'm really enjoying them. In terms of plants, we've got some Java fern winterlove in here, we've got some crypt parva, we have some lace fern or water sprite, we've got some giant ambulia, some Rotala Wallichi, and this aquarium in particular really grows and transforms over time, so I've had many iterations of what this one's going to look like, and there'll probably be many more in the future. For anyone looking to keep celestial pearl danios, I definitely would recommend keeping them in large groups like this. There's just no other way that you would be able to touch the glass right in front of a celestial pearl danio if you didn't have that many of them in an aquarium, so definitely recommend keeping them in groups of 10 or more if you are going to pick them up. It seems like the logical next step to talk about my indoor pond here. This holds some Medaka rice fish, and basically it just came to the end of summer and I had this pond. It was nicely established with plenty of little micro critters and whatnot, and I figured I might as well just bring it inside rather than packing it up and finding an aquarium for these rice fish. Rice fish are super hardy fish, so definitely don't heat this aquarium. And I've even kept this same pond outside year round last year. I live in the bottom of Australia, so it gets quite cold down here, so I'll be fairly comfortable in recommending them as a cold tolerant fish. Definitely having kept them outside in pretty low temperatures, especially in the middle of winter. As well as that, I'm using this to keep most of my pond plants alive through the winter period. So I've got a few canna lilies and I've got a few aquarium lilies as well in this pond here, which are just trying to hold on through the winter period until I get them back outside for summer. In terms of the actual rice fish, I have 3 different colors in here. I have platinum rice fish, I have red and white rice fish, and I have Yuhiki rice fish, which are more of a yellow caramel sort of color. But really fantastic top dwelling fish, and great year-round fish for outdoor ponds. Next up, I'll show you these 4 4-foot aquariums. The first one we'll start off with is 4 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot, and each of the other 3 are 4 foot by 18 inch by 18 inch. To get started, this aquarium here, although you can't really see it at the moment, I will overlay plenty of B-roll for you. This guy here houses my Australian Saratoga Leicardi, which is a fantastic sort of Australian arowana, if you will. As well as that, we have 5 striped silver dollars and 4 Oscars. Obviously, this tank isn't going to house these fish for the long term, and I actually have a bigger aquarium outside at the moment, which will be ready to head into the new fish room, which I'm going to build at the late period of this year. So I already have a bigger house for them. It's just a matter of I'll set it up at the new place rather than bring it in here and have to sort of reset it up at the new house and the new fish room. Other than that, these guys all play really well together, and I have experimented with other fish in here in the past. Oscars, however, are fairly docile, and once they worked things out with the silver dollars, things have been magical ever since. And I'm just really enjoying watching everything grow in here. It's quite deceptive. I'm sure when it comes time to net them all out later this year, I'll realize how big they all actually are. Next up in this aquarium right here, we have some honey gouramis. We have 4 honey gouramis, and we have a Bristlenose breeding factory, which has albino and normal Bristlenose. And then we also have a bit of a grow out for some Apistogramma agassizi fire golds. Not too sure how many agassizis are still left in there. I've been selling them out of there reluctantly, but I'm hoping that I've left myself at least a few pairs to try and breed some more and keep this going, because it'd be a real shame to lose these fish. And I really enjoy these awesome Apistogrammas. These next 2 4-foot aquariums are what most people would refer to as sort of mixed community tanks. Some people would consider them to be high tech because we have some pretty good lighting on these, and we do inject CO2 and dose fertilizer. In terms of the stocking, we have some Bozemanite rainbow fish in this guy. We have some Odessa barbs, some Siamese algae eaters, because we did have a breakout of blackbeard algae a while ago, which is cleared up entirely. I've got some Pinoy blue angelfish in there. Got some German blue rams, and we have some whitefin ornate tetras as well. Really fun active tank to watch, and I do really enjoy this one. We've had multiple carpets over time. At the moment we've got this Blixa japonica, although it is growing a little bit too well and tending to float up, so we will deal with that in time. And the other mixed community planter tank here we have holds my, they started off as platinum angelfish. They mixed with some marble angelfish, and I've sort of bred towards this sort of gold-headed pearl scale platinum angelfish, whatever you want to call them. But I really enjoy watching this develop over time, and I've bred specifically for these gold-headed angelfish. As well as that, we've got a number of platies in here, some black-banded rainbow fish, the Melanitanian nigrans. We've got the turquoise rainbow fish in there as well, a huge Siamese algae eater, a mixture of other fish in there as well. We've got some ornate Radonocentris, we've got some bettas in there, male bettas, we've got some black neon tetras, some kochu tetras or king tetras, some rummy nose tetras, some harlequin rasboras, and a bunch of other stuff. Oh, a bunch of different cories as well, some Juliard cories, bronze cories, and there's all sorts of stuff hidden in there. But that's one thing I really enjoy about this aquarium. Basically, the stocking of most of my other aquariums stays pretty strict. They might even be species only or have, maximum of 2 species. But this guy here, I just sort of let it be a free-for-all. Yeah, just really enjoy sitting here and watching this tank basically grow in front of your eyes. Okay, so now on the other side of the fish room, we'll start off with this aquarium here. This one is a 2 foot by 18 inch by 18 inch, or 60 centimeter by 45 centimeter by 45 centimeter. Once again, it's a planted tank. We do inject CO2 in here. Just got some T5 lights on here, and I use it mainly as a Betta growout. I had a spawn a few months ago now, and these are the fry from that spawn, so they're all siblings. In terms of the other fish, we do just have some green neon tetras, some neon tetras, and a trio of the koi tuxedo guppies, once again, mainly for algae control. This aquarium did break out with a lot of algae. We've still got a bit of blackbeard algae that we'll work through, but for the most part, it's pretty algae free at the moment, and the plants are really starting to take off as well. So really enjoying this aquarium, and I keep it fairly low flow, so the canister filter is actually directed straight at the wall, so the flow isn't too crazy for the bettas to try and put up with. Once again, a really fun aquarium, and you don't often see multiple bettas within the same aquarium getting along, and you can see by the fins that nobody's having any dramas in here. They've all got perfectly fine fins, not shredded up or anything like that. Next along here we have a 2-tier rack. It is a cinder block stand. Basically I built it before I was confident in building my own stands, and if you are sort of not much of a handy person, then I would recommend going this way. Certainly very functional, very modular, and easy to put together. On top of this stand here, this first aquarium is 80 centimeters long, or about, what's that, 2.5 foot or 2.6 foot, something like that. Inside this aquarium here, we've got some black emperor tetras, we've got some Egyptian mouth brooders, and we have some Florida flagfish. So I found the Florida flagfish to be a super shy fish. I almost never see them, and I always think that I've lost them until I just noticed one sort of dart out of a corner one day. So I can see a couple right there at the back corner. So I do know that there's still flagfish in there, but that's the only reason why. Nevertheless, a really good algae eater. This looks like we've got some algae problems in here, but it's clearing up quite well once again. So pretty happy with the progress of this aquarium. In terms of the actual plants and stuff, we've got some hairgrass, Javaferna nubius, Bulbitis, and some very much low demanding plants. We don't really need to dose any fertilizer or do very much in here at all. The next aquarium along is a nice easy low light aquarium as well. So we have heaps of Cryptocrines in here, which is a really slow growing but low demand, easy beginner plant. And I find that the longer you leave these plants, the more natural and fantastic the aquarium looks. So I've endeavored to not touch this aquarium at all. In terms of the fish, we have a growout of Apistogramma cacatoides. Really love these guys. They're commonly known as the cockatoo cichlid. The males are going to have some nice longer fins and be quite larger. Females, you're going to want to look for smaller fish with more yellow body coloration, but we are still quite a ways off sexing out these guys to hopefully breed the next batch on. Above this aquarium, you might notice some things hanging around. We have some killifish eggs in here, some golden wonder killifish. We have some rainbow fish eggs here. We have some Bozeman-eye rainbow fish eggs. And then in here we have a growout of some Gardner-eye killifish, and I think they're actually a couple of goldfish. So I'm not quite sure on that one. They could be anything, but I just spotted some mystery fry one day and I couldn't really figure out where they came from. So we're gonna wait and see on that one, but my bet at the moment is on goldfish. Super fun aquarium anyway. I'm really enjoying watching the fry. If we take a look at these two aquariums, we'll have to have a lot of B-roll in this because I'm sure this is not a great angle. In here we have a couple of spawns of Betta imbellus. Fantastic Betta. They are a bubble nest Betta, but they have some really nice blue and red sheens to them. So there's quite a few little baby Betta imbellus in there. Way more peaceful than a lot of other Bettas, so definitely recommend, if you are looking to branch into wild Bettas, start with the Betta imbellus. Just some pearlweeds planted in here, nothing too crazy, and I just actually thinned this right out. This aquarium next door is actually quite a funny story. We do have some crystal shrimp in there at the moment, some Mishlings, which are a cross between crystals and Taiwan bees. But I was going to put actually some Apistogramma cacatoides in there. However, I noticed some mystery fry swimming around. I think they might be Emperor Tetras or Acara Tetras, but I'm not really sure, so I thought it best to not put any fish in there that are going to eat those. Let's grow them out and see what we've got. So really fun to get some mystery fry happening, and I'm really excited to see what comes of it. But in any case, in there we have some Michelin shrimp and some mystery tetras. I believe they're tetras, but some mystery fry. Okay, so as we move along here, we've got another stand here. I built this one as well. We've got two 3-foot aquariums on here. They are 3 foot by 18 inch by 60 inch, I think, or 90 centimeters by 45 centimeters by 40 centimeters. Top one here, I have some golden wonder killifish, some Kerai tetras, and some tricolour swordtails or koi swordtails. So golden wonder killifish are a fantastic top dweller. Once again, you're going to need tight lids to keep them, and be mindful that they've got a pretty big mouth. So this is heavily planted in here, so I am hoping some of the fry are going to be able to evade them and swim away, the fry of the swordtails that is. But they are pretty slow growing, so I'm not holding out the most hope, and if I really want to reproduce the swordtails, I'll probably separate them out later on down the track. In any case, I really enjoy this aquarium here, and I tend to stare at it a lot. My computer setup is right there, so this is the aquarium that gets the most attention, and I look over at it the most while I'm editing videos. Lots of activity, heaps of dense lush plants, and a fun one to just watch and observe over time. And down here we have an aquarium with 5 Ryukin goldfish in it. I really like these sort of goldfish. I think their fins are fantastic, and I tried to get all sorts of different colours. I have noticed that the colours have changed over time. The one that is looking a little bit like a shibunkin in coloration with the splotches, that was originally a brown goldfish, so I really wanted to go back in time and find out what goldfish really have to offer, and I've been pleased with the results so far. Very personable fish. My kids really enjoy that because they're only 3 and 4 years old, so that's at their height, and they can really interact with these fish. So I really enjoy these goldfish, and I'm thankful that I went back and tried to keep them the right way this time around and see what they had to offer. And the last aquarium that I have out here in the fish room is this super low profile aquarium here. It is 1 meter long or 3.5 foot long. I think it's about 13 centimeters tall or 15 centimeters tall, approximately 6 inches. And then in terms of width, I think it's about 25 centimeters or about 10 inches or something like that. So a really fun tank, and I thought a fantastic tank to put some more of my Bloody Mary cherry shrimp into. You can see I've got the driftwood coming up and out of the aquarium, which I really like. And once again, whilst I'm here at the computer editing, I do spend a lot of time looking into this aquarium as well. I do have a sponge filter on this one just because I have the room, so I figured I might as well. But it is again an unheated aquarium, although ambient temperature in the fish room here stays pretty mild. It doesn't get too hot or too cold in here, just with all the water having temperature regulated within it. Scape here, actually that one there was designed and assembled by Jag Aquatics, who is an award-winning aquascaper. So all I was required to do was basically place aqua soil around it. I did get this hairgrass carpet going, but apart from that, yeah, really simple to put together and just a really nice, easy, low maintenance aquarium. So although that's all the aquariums that I keep out here in my garage fish room, I do have one aquarium inside, which I'll show you now. This aquarium, it used to actually live on my desk at work, though when the pandemic happened, I brought it home from work and it's stayed there ever since. This held some Betta Bettas. It's a no filter tank once again. It does have a heater in it just because inside the temperature does fluctuate a little bit in terms of the room temperature. Heavily planted once again, and the Bettas are happily breeding, and there's always bubble nests going on in this aquarium, so really fun one to see. Definitely tight lids once again because they do fling themselves right around the aquarium. For that reason, I'd also suggest no sharp objects within the aquarium because yeah, I've never seen fish sort of dart around as much as these guys do. The female is still pretty nice, but they're not quite as colourful as the males, and the fins aren't quite as long either. They do exhibit some very peaceful behaviour, and you can happily keep males and females together for their entire life, so definitely recommend checking them out. So there you go guys, that is my full fish room tour. Of course, if you've got any specific questions, feel free to drop them down below. I love all the engagement and questions that I get, so I always try to answer them as quickly as possible. Hopefully you like this tour. As you can tell from the difference between now and the last tour, things are always changing, always evolving in my hobby and in this fish room. So hopefully you like what you see. Hopefully you want to stick around for the changes in the future. And if you do, it always helps me out to smash like, hit subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Other than that, I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.